Hi there. So today I want to go through how to set up the DJI Pocket 2 with Cosmostreamer on a Raspberry Pi 4 as a IRL backpack. We basically go through a complete rundown of the UI, the graphical interface, how to configure the Raspberry Pi. I won't be installing Cosmostreamer because I actually bought the complete kit from the guy that makes Cosmostreamer already pre-installed on Raspberry Pi. But to be honest, it's fairly simple because it's just basically taking his image and flashing it to a micro SD and then just applying the license that you need for that particular board. So if you get it fired up, I show how the interface looks like, and then basically we'll go through a full setup of how I'm putting my backpack together, and I'll finish off with a load test of how long this is going to last without overheating. And trust me, you'll be impressed. This actually works very, very well. It is nothing like streaming with the DJI Pocket 2 with the do-it-yourself handle with the internal Wi-Fi. Anyhow, let's get into it. I've connected the Cosmostreamer on the Raspberry Pi 4 to a power supply here, USB power supply. You can see maybe there's like a little red light inside here. Tells you the board is powered up. That's great. I have it on the local network. For the DJI Pocket 2, and turn that on. You can see the screen, and then I have a USB-C extension cable. Plug that into the connector for the mobile phone on the Pocket 2, and then plug it into the USB-C port on the side of the Raspberry Pi 4. And you can see the screen of the DJI Pocket 2 is gone off, and that means that the Raspberry Pi 4 has now connected and simulates the mobile phone. When I use it with my backpack, I have this little 90-degree USB-C adapter so that the cable can go down or up. So as you have seen, we plugged the cable into the DJI Pocket, and I'm now plugging it into the Raspberry Pi. Picks up the camera immediately, and you can now go and you can use the web interface, and you can actually, with the mouse, you can drag the camera left and right so you can see things. That's great. So one thing that often goes wrong, if you find that you have a 4:3 screen, what more than likely has happened is that you've selected the photo mode and you have this 4:3 view. So just make sure that you have the camera mode enabled. So that's one thing. The other thing is that sometimes it doesn't really detect that you have a zoom option. Let's actually do a reload. And on the reload now I got my zoom buttons here, so you can actually zoom in. And you can zoom out. That's a digital zoom. That's part of the DJI Pocket 2. But what's interesting for us is really the device settings. And before we do that, up here, what you're seeing is the resolution that's set for the video mode. It's actually not the output. The output itself, if you go to HDMI or to your stream, is only 720p because that's the maximum that we can read from the mobile USB-C interface. So we go to device settings, and the first thing you have here is you have the board model, the firmware version, the camera type that you're using. Cosmostreamer actually supports a wide variety of DJI products. There are things listed like the GoPro and Xiaomi, but I'm not sure how far he is with the development on those. So I would simply ignore them for now. What's quite interesting is it can also receive an RTMP feed, so that's actually quite nice. The next thing then, Ethernet. Generally you don't have to change anything here. If you want to give your Cosmostreamer a static IP, you can do that. That's for the network interface. On the Wi-Fi then you have your system. You can just set it to 00 or China or US. I just have it to 0, 0. It doesn't really matter. It's just a system setting. Camera then. So this defines where your camera is connected if you're using one of the Wi-Fi modes, which we aren't. I have connected the camera via USB-C, so this is not interesting to us. But the Wi-Fi options that you have is there's an internal Wi-Fi on the Raspberry Pi 4, and you can also plug a USB Wi-Fi in. The same for the VLAN. So if you want to connect via wireless to a network, you do that here. You tell it USB on internal Wi-Fi, and then you can select your network and scan for it that you want to connect to. And what I've done in this particular case is I've used the internal Wi-Fi. Again, I have the option between internal and USB. The SSID is Cosmostreamer. Password minimum 8 digits. EU 2.4 GHz, which channel I'm using. And basically I use this access point to connect my mobile phone to the Raspberry Pi 4 so that I can control Cosmostreamer and the gimbal with my mobile phone. So that's what I use that for. One important thing is that not every USB dongle is capable of doing access point mode, so you have to be quite picky there. I will list a few down in this description that I have tested that work in access point mode. And generally just use the internal Wi-Fi for the access point mode and add a USB dongle if you want to connect to another wireless network. So the next point is the display. So the display is the video output if you want to take the video feed out of the Cosmostreamer via HDMI. And what you do here is there is other things like OSD, and you can connect the TFT display and touchscreen. I have not really fiddled with any of that. It has no interest to me, but main display is what is interesting to me. So first of all, we are choosing HDMI here. And the output mode then, the 4 modes that you sort of have that you can choose from. So the CEA modes, they are composite, so they are TV type modes. So we have 720p and 1080p, and the DMT modes then they are digital. So they are if you connect it to a monitor or something like that, then you use these modes. The capture card should be relatively ignorant about that, so I generally set it to one of the 1080p rates. That's basically all I'm setting up in this section here. And then we have video audio, and here's an important thing: the mobile phone feed from the DJI cameras doesn't include audio. There's no audio coming from the camera to the Cosmostreamer. There's no way of getting that audio. So what has been done instead is that you can plug in a USB sound card into the Raspberry Pi, and you can then use the audio capture, which I'm capturing at 128 kilobits here, and then you can send it to the HDMI. And I do audio capture volume at 100% because I found it was just way too, it wasn't loud enough coming in any other way. One important thing to know is that once you have this enabled, if you fire the board up without the USB sound card in it, and you then try to stream using the internal streaming functions of Cosmostreamer, the stream will fail. So you need either to disable the audio if you don't have the sound card in there, or you need to make sure that the USB sound card is plugged in at all times. Under video, you have the ability to transcode the footage. I don't use this. It also would be fairly CPU intensive. And then we go to the internal streaming functions. So if you don't want to use the HDMI feed from the HDMI port on the Raspberry 4, you have a good few options on how you can stream straight out of Cosmostreamer. So UDP RAW H.264, I haven't used that. RTP, haven't really used that. RTSP, yes, that's actually great. So you can connect to this as if this was a camera in your network, and you just use this RTSP URL to get to it. RTMP, which allows you to, for example, to stream straight from Cosmostreamer to YouTube or Facebook or Twitch or whatever else. And you can actually send 2 streams out to 2 different places. SRT, great. So here you have the SRT URL, and it's running in the caller mode. So you don't need any more than this on this particular board. NDI doesn't work in the board itself. If you want to use NDI, you need to connect to the board using the Cosmostreamer NG Windows software and then do NDI there. And V4L2, you have a device on the Raspberry Pi that you can access, so that's quite neat. You have the option to record to a micro SD or something like that. I don't use any of that. You have the option for secondary cameras, and you can use a Raspberry Pi camera as your secondary camera, so that's quite neat. And then it has further options here for remote control from a remote control car or helicopter or plane, that you can use to steer the gimbal, things like that. So there's loads of functions here. The only thing that's important then still is system. So in system, you can do your firmware upgrade. So you can restart the server app, you can restart the entire box if you want. And then under other, there is one more important option, is mount file system in read-write mode at start. The way Cosmostreamer has been developed is that the entire system runs on a read-only file system, and that means that you can just plug the power out and you don't have to worry about shutting down or anything. The image will not get corrupted. So if you want to make changes to the image, you would need to click the checkbox here, then reboot the box, then you can go in and you can make your changes. And then I would suggest that you untick this one again, reboot again, and that way you're back into read-only mode and you don't risk getting your system corrupted. But that's all for the configuration of the Cosmostreamer. So now that we've gone to the configuration of the Cosmostreamer Raspberry Pi 4 board, I figured we'll go through the way of setting up the equipment in the backpack, and especially in a way where everything doesn't just rattle around the backpack, because if you have the router and the Raspberry Pi and batteries and all that just knocking about in the backpack, is just gonna cause issues. Equipment's gonna get damaged, things aren't going to work very well. Generally you end up with disconnects and things like that. So that's essentially one of the important things of putting the kit together. So for that purpose I use these Cocoon organizers. They are actually really good for this. And yeah, let's get started. So first thing first, we need to power the gear somehow. So battery packs. This is an Anker PowerCore Plus 26800. The non-PD version has 3 quick charge USB 3 ports, and depending on what sort of setup you go with, this might be enough, but generally you might need more than that. So one battery pack might not be enough, but we'll start with this. So, and then I have my my Raspberry Pi that goes in here. So, okay, and then I can route. Actually, I'm going to put it like this here. Well, we'll see. Sure. Leave it like this for now. And then I'll route the cable up to here. So the next thing is the cabling for the DJI Pocket 2. Plugs in here. Actually, we might go and pull this up. Put the plug under one of these straps. So that's that plugged in, and then I'll route that also up this way. I think we might have to change this as I go, and it depends on what I'm going to do. So that's great. And we need a long USB cable to charge the Pocket 2. Goes the same route. It's down here. So they go both up to, actually, just curl these up here. Oh yeah, and also we want to protect the cable. So if I now took this and I just have it sticking out like this, that's not really a good plan. So what I have for that is I have, because I couldn't find a USB extension cable that had a 90-degree connector, I have this little adapter, and that sorts that. So I can go, I will probably be going up because it's going to go over the shoulder. So that's that. And the next thing then is a way to get internet. So one option, if you just want one modem, is you can take this, and I have these little TP-Link routers, really great. I need a network cable. So the Raspberry Pi expects to get network on the LAN port. Again, this gets powered from the power bank. This is very low consuming, so and this can actually be configured to be a Wi-Fi client or whatever really, but one of the nice things is it functions as a 3G 4G router with a modem. So, and we would go like this, tuck this cable in here, and that's actually a ready to go kit to go into the backpack. You just plug the 3 cables here. There's one is for the DJI Pocket 2, one is for the Cosmostreamer, and one is for the router. That's for a single modem setup. But what if a single modem setup isn't good enough? Okay, well, there is another solution for that. Go and retake you out again. Another Raspberry Pi 4, and this is running Speedify's gateway software. Speedify is a tunneling service, a VPN tunneling service. Put this like this. And they are specifically, their bonding capabilities are specifically designed for to help with streaming. So they have optimized their bonding service for streaming. So that's a good way of doing it. And I have set this up so that the network port gives out IP addresses to client devices. So in this case, the Cosmostreamer. And then we take this modem, and we take a second modem, and use small extension cables just to be able to route the modems to a better place. There's a Wi-Fi module in here, so it can connect to Wi-Fi also. So modem number 1 on this side, and modem number 2 on a slightly longer cable over on this side. Again, so now we have a multi-home setup with 2 4G modems and a Wi-Fi connection, and basically we can go and we can stream with that. Both of these approaches then basically use Cosmostreamer to initiate the RTMP or SRT stream. So that's one other setup that you can use. I have then taken it a step further. So we'll take these modems out again. Remove the LAN cable. Oh yeah, and then obviously I would need another USB-C cable here. I don't have that here right now, but I have one down there to route from here to the battery. Another thing actually is I have an old Samsung S5 and I use this as a modem. So what do you do? So you take a cable, in this case one that's a little bit longer, and you could connect that to your router, and you will basically use this as a 4G modem. So the advantage of using a mobile phone as your modem is that you can go and you can use one thing as a 4G modem, but the other thing is you can also go in and you can use it as a Wi-Fi device to log into Wi-Fi networks that require you to log into a web interface or something like that. So that's very, very handy, and you have another device to access your router and change settings and things like that. So that's a very neat setup. That's number 2. So, and the last option that I have then, which is it gets really advanced at that point, is this is a Jetson Nano. It's an Nvidia board. I have fitted it with the Geekworm UPS module, which takes 6 18650 cells, and basically does its own UPS. And the advantage of that is that because it has its own batteries, if the battery dies, I can replace the battery without that this board goes offline, and so the stream stays online, which is quite nice to have. So we'll and this is where I say we probably have to change things around. So I'll take the I take this and I move this, I think, yeah, probably here. Pull this up. Let's see where we go with this. We strap this board in. And if you use something like this, which is quite power consuming, you definitely want a second battery, because this will cave in at some point. Okay, and the big difference with this setup is that this is actually an encoder on its own. So it is a bonder and an encoder on its own. It's running Belabox. I have an Ava Media Cap 4K here, or you could use a Elgato Camlink 4K. Those are the ones that are recommended for the setup. I'm gonna run this cable. They are HDMI USB encoders. Run this up here and put this in here. Fantastic. Push this a little bit up, and then I need a HDMI cable. So the difference with this setup is that the Cosmostreamer will not handle the SRT stream in this particular case. What we do instead is that we Belabox will do the SRT LA, so a multi-homed SRT stream, which means you have the bonding and the encoding, and the bonding and the encoding, you have that native designed for each other. And it's more efficient than using Speedify, where you have a service that doesn't really know what sort of protocol you're running across it, where this is designed specifically for that. So plug the HDMI cable in. The other thing I find that the quality of what Cosmostreamer puts out on the HDMI feed is actually better than what you get in the stream. So that's that one. Now obviously the internal batteries are not going to last forever. So we have another power cable here. Okay. Same thing. One underneath here. Go up here. And then again, we go underneath here anyhow. So now we have 3 cables up here, but in this case we will definitely need a second power bank. So I have another, but yeah, so 2 Anker power banks, and then basically the next thing then obviously we need the modems. So we have my mobile phone. It's going to be one modem. Okay. We have one of these USB modems. And we have oh yeah, this board can actually have Wi-Fi on board. I don't have that fitted at the moment. If it's the 4 GB version, if it's 2 GB version, then you need a USB dongle. So normally I would have another Wi-Fi module here. Let me find that. That will go on top of this. This is my Wi-Fi access to get access to Belabox and to be able to manage the encoder. Come on. Yeah, there we go. Need the cable plugged back in. Great. So that's one. So we have 2 modems now, and then additionally I'm adding another modem separately via the network port. Which is a Night Gain Night Talk, which is a 5G device. Now, the one thing I've obviously forgot that you need, we still don't have any audio on this. And for that, I use this Tront sound adapter. Goes in the USB port of the Cosmostreamer Raspberry 4, and you then have your microphone port here, and that's where you plug your lavalier or wireless microphone or something like that in. So next thing is we're going to put all of this in the backpack. Then I show how the camera is strapped to the whole thing. So another option then, instead of the modem, is if you want, for example, I have this Netgear Nighthawk. That's the 5G version. It has its own battery, and it lasts about 8-9 hours on that. So I can optionally then power it from a battery bank if I want to. But let's say you want 2 modems on network ports. So we unplug this 4G modem here. And for the test, see how long this kit survives, we'll use another Nighthawk with its own battery. And put this away. Whoops. Fell down. And basically I use a USB to either dongle instead for that. So let's see, it should be in here. Now we have another. I can clip this in. First of all, we clip this under here. Now clip the network drone also under here. Okay, let's get some batteries in here. And I could in theory use another one of these Cocoon organizers to organize the remaining bits then. Fairly easy enough. Grand. Okay, camera aside. The backpack. And basically all of this gear goes up into the backpack, and you can see how the organizer is sort of essential, because otherwise you'll just end up with a whole lot of mess. And then have this pocket here for the laptop, so I can basically put the two 5G routers in here. That's fine. And the mobile phone. Took all of this in here. Second battery also goes in here. That's all going to be wired up. Don't do that now. Let me take this cable here. Now I turn this whole thing on the side. And what I've done is he's taken some Velcro here. So all of this gets wired to the handle, as you can see. And then down here. And this one goes this far. The other one here, I'll run through the Velcro here, and then through this. And next thing is the pocket goes in here with the connector. Okay, and this cable in the bottom to charge my Pocket 2, and then basically all excess cable goes into the backpack, and the two zippers gets closed. So I will take this basically. Actually the other way around is probably better. Just get a bit more flexibility. There we go. And then I can basically take this out just a little bit. Turn this on. Okay, and off we go. And I can control the camera with my mobile phone. So that's great. I'm going to set this up now for a endurance test, and we are going to see how long this is going to last. I will initially wire all the gear up on one battery bank, and I don't expect it to last too long because it's just too much draw on one power bank. Once the power bank depletes, I'm going to replace the power banks with multiple, and then we'll just see how the Pocket 2 does and how it, especially how it does heat-wise, because the biggest problem with the DJI Pocket 2, if you use the do-it-all handle and you stream RTMP over Wi-Fi, is that it basically overheats very quickly. So we'll run the test and we'll take it from there. So Grant, let's see. I spent the first 25 minutes troubleshooting an issue where I didn't really get HDMI on the Cosmostreamer, even though the Cosmostreamer was up and running and no problem. And it turned out that I had left it in photo mode with 4:3 format on the HDMI, and the encoder didn't really like that. So once I had that fixed, everything was working. The reason I left the counter running is because obviously all of the equipment was drawing power, so it was part of the battery draw. So shortly after 2 hours, the Raspberry Pi 4 with the Cosmostreamer died, and the battery pack was at 25%. And the reason for this was that I had the Raspberry Pi, the Jetson Nano with Belabox, and the DJI Pocket 2 on the same battery pack. And that's quite stressful even for a big battery pack like that. So I've added a second battery pack and we continued on with the test. As you can see, about 6 hours in, the Pocket 2 is at approximately 46 degrees. The Netgear Nighthawk M2 is over 70% battery. The Netgear M5, the Nighthawk M5 is at 37%. And the Pico Gear base station for the microphones is not even bothered. So at 8 hours and 38 minutes, the Netgear Nighthawk M5 then died. You can see how the screen disconnects from the cloud and then comes back online immediately again. I ran the setup for another 4 or 5 hours after that, and then eventually just shut the gear down. One of the batteries was depleted, and overall quite happy. The temperature of the DJI Pocket 2 stayed between 36 and 48 degrees depending on which surface, never reached 50, never overheated. So that didn't give any hassle at all. So it's a definitely superior setup for streaming to using the do-it-all handle, because with that you might get 15 minutes out of the camera and then it overheats if you're lucky. So I hope this video has been helpful. If you like the content, give us a like, subscribe, and see you in another one. Bye.